Welcome back to Saturday Agenda. I'm Chris Kenny. I should just mention, if you can, follow me on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, get on board. It's very easy to sign up. My address is @ChrisKKenny, and you can follow me and join the conversation on this program and under the hashtag Saturday Agenda, or shortened actually, Sat Agenda. So get onto Twitter. It seems to be heavily populated by the left and the public servants and the like, so get on there and sort of balance it out a little bit, because it's a lot of fun. Now, joining me for the political panel this week are a couple of regular guests. In the studio with me, Cassandra Wilkinson, former Labor staffer and writer. Thanks for joining us.
G'day.
And in Canberra, the national political editor of the Sunday Telegraph, syndicated around the country, Samantha Maiden. Thanks for joining us, Sam.
Good morning.
Sam, we've had a lot of assessments towards the end of the week and today from the Canberra Press Gallery and other commentators suggesting this has been a very good week for Julia Gillard. Are they, spotting half a swallow and making a summer out of it?
Well, I know that you've been trolling on this on Twitter, Chris. You've been finding all the lefties and beating them around the head with it. I think it is fair to say that Julia Gillard is in her natural environment in Parliament. She is confident on the floor of Question Time, and she's very good at prosecuting her case. I think that this week has seen her take the lead on the economics issues, and, arguably that's a bit of a... she's cutting Wayne Swan's lunch a bit. It's not a great look for Wayne Swan that she's decided to sort of take on the role of economic spokesperson in chief. I think she's still weighed down by all the leadership speculation. There was the leak this week in relation to the cabinet ministers being gagged. So, no, her numbers overall are not good. They had a bit of a boost in AC Nielsen, and they are obviously trying to get on the front foot in the next few weeks on the economics and on the education front. But I think it is fair to say that, she still is a confident performer on the floor of Parliament.
You're right, Sam. This is actually a bit of a hobby horse of mine, no doubt. And she is comfortable in Canberra. It is her home environment. But I suppose this is my point, is so much of our political coverage focuses on that sort of Canberra micro world. And just because she didn't lose the leadership this week and tried to get back onto the economy, which I think was a smart move, that the Canberra environment tries to say that's a win. I just think out in the public world, we're still seeing a Prime Minister batting back the Craig Thomson affair, defending the government's carbon tax and its role, or proposed carbon tax and its role in job losses, again dealing with the leadership crisis. I mean, I think she's a long way off any sort of even beginnings of a comeback. Is that not fair?
Well, I think that she's got a long road to hoe. I think there's no doubt about that. And I don't think that it's clear that while they're making some gains, that's going to be enough to let her see her go the distance. But equally, I mean, you, as a former Chief of Staff to Malcolm Turnbull and someone who likes a bit of wholemeal in their policy bread, you must be disappointed that the Coalition isn't being forced to put more detail out there on their own policies. I know that that's a hobby horse of your own, and they're probably getting away with that a lot because the Labor Party is so weak at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right, Sam, and that's definitely what the government's trying to do, focus on the opposition. And the opposition had a pretty sloppy week. But I think my point, Cassandra, is at this stage of the electoral cycle, the punters, voters, people out around Australia are not particularly interested in what the opposition's doing or saying. They want to see a government govern, and they want to see a Prime Minister with authority, and I don't think they're seeing it yet.
I think at this stage of the electoral cycle, the public don't want to see very much of anyone. What they do want to see is the chance to get in charge of their own school. What they do want to see is the Prime Minister's reforms that are being carried through from when she was Education Minister rolled out so that for the first time ever in this country, parents will be in charge of the quality of education they have at their schools in partnership with their principals. Local, at the school level accountability. That's going to be Julia's legacy. That's the reform that matters this week, and it really doesn't matter. That's her legacy
as Education Minister, isn't it? That's not something she's done as Prime Minister.
No, the policy is policy she delivered as Minister. The fact that all of the states are now coming on board and that these agreements are being put through in New South Wales and at the school level, that's her follow-through achievement as Prime Minister. And the fact is, voters won't notice what happens mid-term unless it hits them where they live, and this is one of those things that I hope she makes a lot more of.
The other policy issue that we saw a lot of focus on this week was the private health insurance rebate and the move to get rid of that, or to means test it actually. Is this a smart move by Julia Gillard? Of course it's going to claw back some money into the budget, but isn't it another broken promise?
Now, this is one of those jobs that someone had to do that Hockey, if he has any brains, will thank her for, because the fact is no party, if they're in government, can afford the sort of nonsense welfare we've been extending by increments to every family that doesn't need it in the country. She won't get thanked because you never get thanked for sticking your hands in someone's pocket, but it's got to be clawed back. It's got to start now.
Samantha Maiden, what do you think about that? I mean, we saw a lot of the rhetoric this week of sort of, we shouldn't be handing out giveaways to the rich from the poor. We heard that from Tanya Plibersek. Do you think that the government's on a winner with this one?
Look, I think there is a danger that even people who aren't captured by the income thresholds that kick in to reduce the 30% rebate will be concerned that they will be captured by that eventually. And certainly, the history of some of those income thresholds for the Medicare surcharge is that they leave them in place for a long time, and over time more people come through and more people get captured. But I think that Cassandra's right, that there is significant concerns about a whole range of welfare and rebates that are offered across the board, and what that means as the population ages, and whether this is sustainable. And I think that Tony Abbott, by and large, has been let off the hook for saying that he's going to fight these changes, but not making it clear at all on Friday that he would actually repeal them in government. So I think that there is a bit of a feeling here that perhaps the coalition in this arena does want the government to do the hard work and get the heat for making these changes, but is not necessarily going to repeal them if it wins government.
Just on that, and very quickly, we see both sides of politics actually saying they want the debate on the economy. Samantha, which side do you think it favours, the government or the opposition? An economic debate, that is.
I think the coalition is not as strong on this issue as it could be. It keeps having a lot of wobbles on this issue. It's up against a treasurer who has had a good track record in some ways, isn't always super confident in terms of selling the message on the floor of Parliament or in the media. So it perhaps, if the coalition was stronger, it shouldn't be the area of strength for the government that it is. The coalition just is continually having own goals on this issue. And there was a great story, I don't know if you read it, that Laurie Oakes wrote today in the News Limited Saturdays, about the story of how that $70 billion black hole got into the media. And it was basically because Hockey so distrusted his coalition cabinet colleagues that he told each of them a different figure for how much he needed to fine. And when that $70 billion figure was found, he knew where the leak came from, but now that figure is a millstone around his neck.
Thanks very much, Samantha. We're running out of time. I just want to roll some pictures as I say thank you to both of you. One of the stars of the week was the new Speaker of the House of Representatives, Peter Slipper, who donned the cape and the bow tie. And I know both of you must have enjoyed his sartorial elegance this week. He, of course, did slightly better in the chamber, I think, than most people expected. But in my view, he was always going to do all right in the chamber. He's an experienced parliamentarian. He will conduct himself well in the chamber. I think the problem for the government is what happens outside the chamber with Peter Slipper, whether any of these other controversies surrounding him comes to a head. So thanks for joining us again this week, Samantha Maiden in Canberra and also Cassandra Wilkinson here in the studio. That's all we have for you again this week. Another eventful week in federal politics, and stay with Sky News throughout the week as, again, Parliament returns to Canberra next week, and we'll see just what sort of a week Julia Gillard has then. Thanks for joining us.